Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Faith, and today guys I'll be checking out Tucker Carlson as he speaks on liberals who take out Donald Trump before letting him become president again. And you guys, I'm super excited to see what this one is all about. If you're here to subscribe to this channel, please consider subscribing, and without much ado, let's see what Tucker Carlson has for us in this video.
Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson again suggesting that he expects Donald Trump to be assassinated. Let's watch.
Are they going to let Trump be president?
No, of course. I mean, look, if, they protested him, they called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times, and every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can't reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him.
Okay, this is bonkers. I flagged this immediately after Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson did that sit down, that counter programming to the GOP debate. And the first exchange of questions that went on for an uncomfortably long period of time was a series of questions about Jeffrey Epstein, which Tucker Carlson said he was asking. Do you believe that he killed himself? He says, I'm asking these questions, Donald Trump, because I think that he was killed because of his politics, because of what he could reveal about all these important people in the world. And I think that you might also have a target on your back. I think we have a bit of that clip. Let's watch it.
Do you think it's possible that Epstein was killed?
Oh, sure, it's possible. I mean, I don't really believe. I think he probably committed suicide. He had a life with, beautiful homes and beautiful everything. And he, all of a sudden, he's incarcerated and not doing very well. I would say that he did, but there are those people, there are many people, I think you're one of them, right? But a lot of people think that he was killed. He knew a lot on a lot of people.
He was killed.
You think so?
I think the closer you look, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. I believe everything I hear. But yeah, the closer you look into it, I mean, the Attorney General of the United States, your Attorney General clearly lied about the Epstein death.
Yeah, he was.
Why?
He was, certainly it wasn't well done. They had no cameras, they had no anything, everybody was sleeping, and a case could be made. Look, I'm not going to get involved in it, but I can tell you a case could be made either way, but it certainly wasn't the most well-run place.
So the reason I'm asking you is I'm looking at the trajectory since 2015 when you got into politics, for real, and then won. It started with protests against you, massive protests, right. Organized protests by the left, and then it moved to impeachment twice,
right?
And now indictment. I mean, the next stage is violence. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick.
Okay, so why wouldn't they try to kill you? Why wouldn't somebody try to kill you? A bunch of questions about why wouldn't someone try to kill you? And now doubling down on this line of inquiry with his other host saying, I think they're going to kill him. I think I'm going to kill him. This feels like, look, I'm no big fan of Donald Trump, but this makes me uncomfortable. This feels like kind of, dare I say it, stochastic terrorism. But Tucker Carlson is bringing up, trying to incept into everybody's minds the idea of assassinating Donald Trump.
I think he's suggesting, and you can agree or disagree with this, that Donald Trump obviously melted the brains of a lot of people to thinking that he's the great Satan, and there has been an escalation in, obviously you're well within your rights to protest him, you're well within your rights to think that the conduct he engaged in is worthy of impeachment or indictment, conviction, etc. But it is an unprecedented level of opposition to this man and his rule, and Tucker suggesting what more do you escalate to? Now, I don't actually think there are plots to kill Donald Trump, and it is reckless to suggest otherwise. If
it is reckless to
but...
suggest. It is reckless to suggest. Last time we brought this up on the show, I pointed out that the liberal media went crazy when Hillary Clinton suggested that Barack Obama might be assassinated, and that's why she didn't want to drop out of the 2008 primary prematurely. Because folks understood that there is a way that you can kind of encourage behavior by talking. That's what stochastic terrorism is. I don't think
Tucker is encouraging people to assassinate Donald Trump.
No, but I don't think that Hillary Clinton was literally encouraging people to assassinate Barack Obama either. But it was the understanding of the public was, why would you even manifest, why would you even say out loud, why would you put in people's minds the idea of assassinating someone who, in Barack Obama's case, who was already being targeted because of the historical nature of his candidacy from a racial perspective, and Donald Trump because, as Tucker points out, he has crossed so many lines in the establishment and hates him for all of these other kinds of reasons. So I don't know. I felt also, like he seemed uncomfortable.
Also, the assassinate Trump, again, this would be coming from the Democrats are the ones trying to take out Trump. Democrats are not like vigilantes right now in our current like political understanding. The Democrats are the ones who want to follow rules and experts and establishment and mainstream to the end of time. So they're not going to assassinate Donald Trump. They're going to subject him to bureaucratic processes until it drags him into the ocean. That is their modus operandi. It's not like the vigilante's going to come and take him out is like a right-wing fantasy of how right-wing people take care of things these days.
But he is a right-wing person.
Well, but he's not suggesting right-wing people are going to take out.
I disagree. So we both know that out of the Dominion lawsuit deposition, disclosures rather, we know that Tucker Carlson said he, quote, hates Trump passionately. I hate him passionately.
I mean, he said that about in that moment. I don't know if that's a...
How many people did you once hate passionately that now you're besties with, Robbie?
I mean, I've certainly expressed unkind sentiments about people in the heat of the moment after a particularly rough day where I don't.
There is exactly one person I can think of that I've used that sort of language with who I now like a great deal, and that is a political commentator, one of Hillary Min, Peter Dow, who was one of the worst people against the left back in 2016, but subsequently realized his politics were not where it was at, changed his mind, and has been a strident advocate of Bernie Sanders in 2020 and since then. I can't think of anybody else, and because he substantively changed, I now have all this warmth and affection for him. Generally speaking, that email was not that old, first of all, and there's nothing to evidence that he has changed his position. I think he was he was supportive or warm toward Trump or a lot of Trump policies before. I think he was. I don't know. I think he was deeply. Hold on. I think he was deeply frustrated with the things Trump said and did in the election vicinity that harmed Trump and his ideas and the conservative movement, and that was extremely frustrating for people who actually care about the future of the Republican Party and conservative ideas. Okay, well,
to watch Trump just embarrassing himself and everyone else, and just putting himself in like a future unwinnable position, and putting the entire movement in a future unwinnable position.
Well, Trump's still doing all of those things. He's still doing election denialism. He's doing it on Tucker's show with no pushback. But what we know from those same Dominion disclosures is that Tucker Carlson, despite having that private position about Donald Trump, understood that it was good for business to be friendly with Trump. And so he, in fact, castigated other employees of Fox News for saying anything critical of Donald Trump, even though he shared their underlying view that he hated him passionately. So now, all of this is in the background of my head as I'm watching Tucker and Trump sit across from each other. Trump, say what you want about him, he's a very savvy media figure. He knows what Tucker Carlson said about him. He knows. And he is a vain guy who does not like to be talked down to. And so I felt like there was tension between them during that interview. Trump opened with saying something a little bit shady about how, oh yeah, Fox News is bad. You used to have this great popular show, and now you're here stuck doing this with me on Twitter. And he kind of cleaned it up a little bit, but there was definitely tension between the two at the top of this interview. And immediately after that, Tucker Carlson started talking about, don't you think someone's going to kill you? Don't you think someone's going to kill you? And now he's still taking on this line of questioning. So it's not clear to me what he wants the outcome to be here. Does he think there's a legitimate threat against the president? In which case,
no, he's a provocative host, and he enjoys touching things, subjects of discussion that other people don't want to do, and he's creating content. That's what I think he's doing. But later in the interview on the Adam Carolla show, Carlson made the case that CNN anchors are the mouthpieces for intelligence agencies. Let's watch.
The intel agencies have a big effect on what is broadcast on television and what you see on Facebook and Google as well. I mean, they're all up and down Facebook and Google, as I'm sure you know. And, there are a lot of anchors who, including people I know well and have worked with at different networks. I'm thinking of one in particular, a national security reporter, who was just a mouthpiece for the Pentagon and the CIA and is knowingly telling lies on their behalf. That's very, very common, very common. And I can think of a number of people at CNN who I know for a fact are doing that exact thing. And so, I mean, they're reading government propaganda from the intel agencies knowingly. And I'm sure they've got some internal rationale that allows them to get up in the morning and face themselves despite having done something that dishonest. But I'm just telling you, bottom line, I know that is true. I'm not speculating at all.
Yeah, fact check. That is all true in my perspective. We've seen the influence of the intelligence community on the discourse on social media, and then also just in the discourse in the actual media, that all their experts are intelligence officials. The people who staff panels on CNN and MSNBC are increasingly national law enforcement advisors, national security perspective people, and that is the intensely anti-Russia or Cold War mentality that is now so at home on mainstream news is just worth denouncing.
And the fact that the intelligence agencies, the deep state, as it were, so entrenched in corporate media, it speaks to their power, right? And historic assassinations, have been tied to those in leadership who are willing to really challenge the core of that power. People like Martin Luther King, people like arguably the Kennedys. That is the argument that RFK Jr. has been making this entire time. Not just being kind of a rabble rouser and saying, oh, I hate Republicans gets you killed, but saying we're going to withdraw from Vietnam. We're going to disempower the intelligence agencies. That's what gets you a target arguably on your back. Obviously, they're not exactly disclosing their role in these kinds of assassinations and encounters. But I'm not sure that we can credibly make an argument that Donald Trump has exactly gone that far. I will say that he obviously has changed the discourse and helped to move the Republican Party from the hawkishness that typified it before the Trump era. But I think there are limits to the extent to which he's been really to challenge the blob.
Massive limit. Donald Trump is the best thing for the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, because though he rails against it, he took no steps to dismantle it. He's opposition to it, but it's a controlled opposition because
that's why he's safe.
Not because he's controlled, but because he's not actually going to follow through on any of it.
That's why I think he's safe. Despite what Tucker Carlson might be, I don't know. Despite all of his prognostications.
Was that Tucker up on the grassy knoll?
No, it's just Tucker.
It was Ted Cruz.
He paid the guys to stay. This is a joke, obviously. But stay safe, Donald Trump. Stay safe.
Stay safe, bestie.
We'll have more rising for you right after this.
You guys, that was such an interesting one. And let me know your thoughts on this particular one. Do you think Tucker Carlson is beginning to stir up something and he shouldn't have mentioned this to Trump during the course of this interview? Let me know your thoughts, and I really had fun reacting to this video. If you guys totally enjoyed watching, give it a massive thumbs up, comment, share, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.